Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Truth. I'm your host, the one you love the most, Niall Hassan, back with a brand new episode here in The Truth. Back once again with my brother Lucas. Lucas, how are you doing once again here today?
Still good. Talking baseball. Hawkeyes are up like 15-0 on Rutgers, so maybe we'll finally win a game.
For women?
Now for baseball.
Oh, wow. 15-0. I was like, wait, what? Big Ten play, I guess, has already started then, huh?
Yeah, we lost yesterday, of course.
Is this the first weekend of it?
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, baseball is back for college. It's been back for a period of time, and Major League season is literally right around the corner, days away from the opening series. And where's it against Seoul? Is it Seoul?
I believe so.
Yeah, so kind of weird how they're doing that. Like, obviously, I like the international aspect of it, but like, I wish there was not as big of a gap, like the 10 days or whatever it is in between that and the actual MLB opening day. But nonetheless, we are going to be finishing up these last two episodes of the Fantasy Baseball Podcast, and particularly these preseason ones. We're going to give you guys our final position rankings. Today's position group focus is going to be third baseman. Another very interesting position, some obvious guys, and there's some guys that maybe haven't gotten a lot of recognition, but there's also some guys that could be some deep sleepers for your teams this year. So we have all those answers that you need here today. Before we jump into that, we're going to give you guys our top 10 rankings. Lucas has Jose Ramirez at 1, Austin Riley 2, Devers 3, Machado 4, Bregman 5, Jake Berger 6, Royce Lewis 7, Jazz Chisholm 8, Junior Caminero 9, and Matt Chapman 10. I have Jose Ramirez 1, Austin Riley 2, Manny Machado 3, Devers 4, Mark Vientos 5, Royce Lewis 6, Matt Chapman 7, Alex Bregman 8, Alec Bohm 9, and Jake Berger 10. The first guy I highlighted on your list is your number 2 guy. Why don't you go ahead and talk about him?
Yeah, also it's Tokyo, not Seoul. I don't know why I keep forgetting, but Tokyo's this year, Seoul was last year.
Okay, I thought it was the opposite. I thought Tokyo was last. It makes more sense because there's the
Yeah,
entire Japanese team now on the Dodgers, but I was just
yeah.
curious.
Anyway, for me, Austin Riley of Atlanta, I think he has kind of not fallen off a little bit, but he only had 19 home runs last year, 56 ribbies. But people have to understand he missed about 50 games due to injury. But the years before, I mean, last year he had 32 doubles, 37 home runs. The year before, 39, 38, 33, 33. Like, he is raked in Atlanta. He is raked in the center of that lineup. And he's put up amazing numbers in his entire career. 107 RBIs in 21, 93 in 22, 97 in 23. So it's hard to discount the fact he did have a rough year last year. But again, you got to take into account that he really just didn't get on the field as much as obviously he and the Atlanta Braves would like him to. I mean, he had 250, 320 on base, 470 slug, and 780 OPS. But the years before, he was an all-star. He was one of the best third basemen in the game. So to me, he's a number 2 guy just because of what he's shown the last 3 out of 4 years. The strikeout numbers are a little bit of a concern, but you kind of take it with a guy who's slugging the absolute heck out of the ball, and he's hitting it out of the yard at an unbelievable clip. He's getting on base. He's hitting guys in a very good Atlanta lineup. So I think people need to realize that he may have fallen a little bit on draft boards in terms of position ranking. Like, I've seen some at 5 and 6. I think he's better than that because he has shown himself to be an elite bat for the past 3 years, or 3 of the 4 years.
So my first guy that I'm going to talk about is my number 3, and it's Manny Machado. I love Manny Machado. I mean, now I'm kind of sitting in a position at the time of recording this. I don't know the status of Garrett Cole, but I know that he's got a little elbow discomfort as of yesterday, so might have to choose the keeper, and I would feel comfortable choosing Manny Machado, even though he is now 32. Had a really good year last year, and the last couple years, really, for San Diego have been really effective. Really, his entire career in San Diego has been very solid. Obviously, started his career with Baltimore. That's where he made his name for himself, and then got traded over to the Dodgers at the end of the 2018 season. But since then, has spent the last 6 seasons, hard to believe already, in San Diego. Last season, 29 home runs, 105 RBIs. I mean, the year before that, 30-91. The year before that, 32-102. The year before that, 28-106. Like, it's just Mr. Consistency. I mean, this is one of those guys that hit a blistering home run in Seoul. I remember that vividly. But he's just he has a ton of power. He has a ton of pop. He hits in a very good lineup. And I think that he's one of those guys that it doesn't matter how old he is, he's going to be able to be an effective player. I mean, look, he's entering his like what 13th season in major leagues or 14th season. Like he's an experienced guy and he's continued to hit at a high eclipse. He's continued to be one of the more dominant players in baseball. And I'm really excited to see what he's going to do. And I think, yes, third base is one of those positions where there's a lot of studded stars like Jose Ramirez, Austin Riley to kind of mainstake that position. But Manny Machado, who's to say that he can't get back in that mix and continue to hit 30 home runs, 100 plus RBIs, which he's done 3 of the past 4 seasons, and consistently hit anywhere from 270 to even 315. I think the sky is still really high for Manny Machado. I think he's still got a couple more years of really effective ball before he gets into that mid 30s age. But even then, I feel like he's one of those guys that until I see a couple down seasons, I'm going to continue to buy the hype. And I think he'll be one of the best third basemen and one of the best fantasy options for your team in your leagues this season. All right, the next guy I highlighted for you is one that I'm sure you're very excited to talk about. It's number 7.
Yeah, number 7, I think he's one of the biggest high low guys, maybe in this entire draft, but especially at third base. Like the ceiling is so high, but the floor is so low. Not necessarily his performance, but him staying on the field. And that's Royce Lewis in Minnesota. I was just wearing his shirt about an hour ago when I was shooting hoops. Royce Lewis jersey. I love Royce Lewis, but the injury gods don't love him. He has been through it. I mean, 2 torn ACLs, and he's fought back, and he's fought back valiantly. So I'll look at his career numbers: 549 at bats, 268 average, 33 home runs, 104 RBI, 6 stolen bases, 824 OPS. Those are unbelievable numbers. I mean, 549 at bats, that's pretty much a full season, and he's getting 30 bombs and 105 RBIs. That's why I have so high on him. But again, he's the guy, although he says he's not, I feel like he's really prone to that slump thing. After he said that, he really had a rough end of the season. I mean, he strikes out at a high clip. Sometimes he just cannot buy a hit. So again, that's kind of the big high-low shifts. When he's on, he's on. I mean, when he came back from injury this year, it seemed like he was hitting a home run every game, and he really has MVP potential, and I truly could see him winning an MVP in the next 5 years. I could see him winning it next year if he stays healthy, if he stays on the field. So that's where it's a really high-risk, high-reward piece. I don't know if Dad has him. I think he kept him last year. I don't remember, but he's a guy who is so much potential, but you just want to see him stay on the field for a full season because he is such an electric bat. So that's why I have him number 7. I will take his risks and draft him that high because I really believe in him if he can stay on the field.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about Royce Lewis. Obviously, I've talked about him a little bit. Like, I obviously love the talent. I think obviously the biggest thing with him is like he'll go on spurts, especially last season where he's really hot, then really cold, then kind of in between, then really hot, then really cold. But the biggest thing is injury. I mean, he hurt himself opening day last season. I hate to bring this up, but it just reminds me of Byron Buxton. Like, truthfully, I mean, Byron Buxton's one of those guys that, when he got drafted and even when he was progressing through the twin system, getting to the major leagues, he's like, this guy can go win an MVP. I mean, he has the every April, he's like the best hitter in baseball. Always gets that Tops Now Player of the Month card in April. And I feel like the same thing is applied for Royce Lewis, either to start the season when he's healthy or when he comes back from injury. But how long can Royce Lewis sustain that success and how long can he be on the field? That's the biggest question mark. I think that's a big deterrent for a lot of fantasy managers. But again, as you mentioned, and I've talked about as well, like, yeah, he's ranked 7th, probably because of that, because of his injury concern. This is a guy that easily could be top 5 third baseman, especially with where that position is in today's day and age, even top 3 by, a couple of years end. But can he stay on the field? Can he show that consistency? That's the biggest thing. For me, I'm going to go with a high flyer and a wild card here. I'm at number 5, and it's Mark Vanitos. Mark Vanitos kind of shot through the ceiling last year, played 111 games for the Mets, had 27 home runs, 71 RBIs, batted 266. I mean, the 27 home runs and 71 RBIs in 111 games really was eye-popping, and he still had that consistency there at 266. I'll never forget last year when, obviously in our fantasy league, it came down to the final day between me and Kevin for that one spot. And he had Mark Vanitos in 2 games, and I was just holding my breath, like praying that Mark Vanitos was not going to have a game because he was on a tear, especially towards the end of the season. And he ended up working out in my favor. But that's not to say that Mark Vanitos is going to be any worse or anything like that going into the season. I mean, when you talk about the Mets, I talked about it last show with Lindor, like this is a Mets lineup that's always going to be producing runs, like always going to be producing runs. So Vanitos is going to have tons of opportunities for RBIs, scoring runs. He's going to have great opportunity for getting at bats and averages. Obviously, he's not going to steal any bags, but how many elite third basemen have you seen that steals bags consistency, right? That's not what you buy in for a third base position. You buy in for the power. You buy in for the average. I think Mark Vientos can easily do that. Now, do I think that he can get higher than 3? Sure. Higher than 4? Sure. I think 5 is probably his most realistic ceiling this season. I don't think he can get much higher than that just where the nature of the position is. But I think he definitely has the tools to do so. Maybe not this year, but in a couple years down the line. But nonetheless, love what I see back in 2024 with the Mets, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with them going into this year and how that lineup's looking from the get-go. So kind of high risk, high reward, but I think the reward is definitely really high, especially for a guy like Benitez. All right, and then the final guy that I have highlighted for you is your number 9 guy.
Yeah, this is a guy who's also really high risk, high reward, and that's Junior Caminero in Tampa Bay. Caminero was my guy last year that I've kind of been doing this thing in the fantasy league where last round I just picked someone who I'll keep in my NA spot. I did it with Adley Rutschman before he broke through the major leagues, and that worked out great. He was my keeper. Caminero is a guy I really like, and I'm really happy the Guardians traded him away about 2 or 3 years ago, and I know they hate that, but yes, he was a Guardians farmhand, so he doesn't have a lot of major league experience. He did just tee off for 2 bombs against the Twins earlier this week, and he's just a really good player. In the minor leagues, he's a career 300 hitter. Last year had 16 bombs, 39 RBIs. Again, that was in the minor leagues. He did get some major league time, so those were kind of tilted a little bit. But the year before, I mean, that's really broke when he broke out. 31 bombs, 94 RBIs. He's getting on base. I mean, hit 324 in a full minor league season. Had no PS near 1,000. He's kind of a guy I would compare to De Los Santos, Davison De Los Santos, who we've talked about a little bit, except he's hitting more for average, and he's not playing in an area where the ball is flying. But speaking of where the ball is flying, I think the fact that Caminero is going to be playing at George Steinbrenner Field is something to consider because that's going to be a hitter-friendly park. I mean, it's pretty much reenacting or kind of built off based on Yankee Stadium, and except it's outside. So, especially how it's going to play in the summer, I think Caminero is going to tee off. He's really exciting, kind of similar to Lewis. He has an unbelievable ceiling, but the question is, can he produce? I mean, he hasn't been in the majors really at all, but I'm still really high on him, and that's why I have him ranked so high at third base.
My final guy, and it kind of bugs me to do this, but it's going to go ahead and be Alex Bregman. I mean, look, I will never like Alex Bregman just from the whole, Houston Astros science stealing stuff. I'm just, even Correa, and I'm a Twins fan. It's really hard for me to root for him, but Alex Bregman spent his first 9 seasons in the major leagues with the Houston Astros. He's currently sitting at age 30, going into a new home here in Boston, and he kind of took a while, it felt like, to sign. And, a lot of people were touting him as one of the best free agents available going into this season. The last 3 seasons have been a little bit of a struggle. Kind of weird how he's kind of struggled since the whole sign stealing allegations. But 23, 25, 26 home runs, 93, 98, 75 RBIs, and really hasn't gotten anywhere more than 262 average. So he has fallen off a little bit, but I think as we get to the back half of this position, like as you mentioned with Candelario and some of the other guys, like I feel like there's just more risk involved, like when you get to the 8, 9, 10 spot. So why not go ahead and talk about a guy like Bregman at my 8 spot, just because he's shown levels of being a top tier third baseman in the league, whether that's from talent or sign stealing. But I think, going into this season, yes, it's going to be a little bit of adjustment playing for the Red Sox, but still, Fenway Park, obviously the big green monster can play a factor for him. He's a guy that does have a lot of power. He's not going to go steal a lot of bags, but he's consistent, and that's the biggest thing. And even if he's getting 26, 90 RBIs, I mean, you have to be happy, even though that's not the 30 to 40 that he had prior, but it's still really good numbers. And I think, like, looking at a guy like Bregman, yes, you can look at the science ceiling like I do, or you can look at the opportunities for him to be kind of a mid-level third baseman in this top 10 list and still give you valiant production, even going to be in a new home this year in Boston. Thank you guys for listening to another episode here on The Truth. If you guys did enjoy it, make sure you follow The Truth on Twitter, The Truth as one, to stay up to date with the latest information regarding The Truth, including podcast dates, podcast uploads, and other important information you don't want to miss. Make sure you guys also follow The Truth on Instagram and TikTok at the.tt.truth. Are you looking to find a drink that offers peak hydration, raises your energy levels, speeds up your recovery, and keeps your mind sharp through focus and memory? Look no further than Acid Rainwater. I'm excited to partner with Bloodline Sports AZ and Acid Rainwater, which focuses on peak hydration and productivity, while also maintaining ecosystem-friendly product. Use code HESSON15, that's HESSON15, for 15% off every purchase. As always, I'm your host, the one who lived the most, Niall Hesson, joined once again by my brother Lucas. Take care and good night.